The influencer or creator bubble is finally starting to burst. All the signals are here, and if you remember a few months ago I was talking about an upcoming shift in social media. Well, now we're actually right in the middle of it, and it's not looking good for creators as well as brands. I mean, let's be honest, who here hears the word influencer and thinks of something or someone positive? Right? Like in a genuine sense. Like, wow, I love this influencer. He cares about me. I love her brand deals. I buy everything she promotes because it's so genuine and she's so real. Well, actually, last time I heard people say similar things, everybody was raving about somebody who calls himself the Liver King. If you remember him, basically this buff, muscular dude who claimed his physique was the result of his natural, raw, organic, honest lifestyle. Well, turns out he's a scammer, obviously, and he was using steroids all along and stuff like this. Or if we take a look here, I just saw her before, Aitana Lopez right here, who looks like, she's just one of those model influencers, right? Pretty girls. One of her campaigns was actually even shown on one of these Times Square billboards. So cool. But guess what? She's actually fake, 100% fake. She's an AI model. And, there's an agency behind her, which is just think about it like that, called the Clueless Agency, which is honestly kind of sick if you think about it. And rightfully so. We're at a point right now where people are just getting fed up. And if you think about it, we're just at the beginning. Now, it's not just because of this whole AI thing where we just don't know what's real anymore, but people are getting fed up because of the whole state of social media, and it's crumbling quite a bit. Now, having been a creator for more than 7 years now, and also being a consultant basically in the whole creator space, I have started to notice people sort of build a shield that's very, very hard to pierce through nowadays as a creator, simply because they've been taken advantage of so many times, especially recently. There's this one guy I've been watching, this creator recently called Ravi Abuvala or something like that, and he actually hit the nail on the head. He basically says that right now, on social media, we're living in a trust recession, and I actually couldn't agree more. And I was actually having a discussion the other day with a very, very famous mainstream TV star talking about this whole thing, that maybe traditional TV and media will see a comeback over the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even stronger than ever, just because mainstream TV and stuff like that is kind of vetted, and there's sort of a barrier of entry, whereas on social media, it's literally become the Wild West. Scammers, first of all, people pretending to be somebody they're not, AI, fake metrics. Everybody buys fake metrics, stuff like this. And then obviously, on the other hand, right now, there's these real and honest creators who are struggling to make a living because they just don't know how to do it, because it's mostly, again, fake scam gurus telling them something that just doesn't work. Now, again, having been in the game for 7-8 years now, I've been working with a lot of different brands. Basically, I used to be one of these traditional influencers back in the days, 7-8 years ago. Let's not even talk about this, but I've seen this part of the pie. But also, over the past few years with my consulting agency, the Creator Mentorship, basically where we build lasting, impactful creators for a long time, term. I think this whole creator, influencer versus brand situation is the first tower that is collapsing right now. And it's not just that creators are the only ones to blame, even though, remember I said, a lot of creators have an attitude. A lot of creators are lazy, and I just hate them. But it's actually much more difficult than that. It's sort of multifaceted. But one thing I've been seeing recently sort of unfold is that on the one hand, creators and influencers start having problems because they just can't seem to get their usual rates that they're used to in terms of brand deals, sometimes to the point that they only right now get a fraction of what they used to get 2-3 years ago. And then on the other hand, that's the other thing, I'm basically with both sides, working with both sides, brands start complaining because they can't even seem to get a return on investment with those lower rates that they give. So sort of reminds me of the whole housing market crashing in 2008, something like that. So yeah, influencers right now start panicking, actually a lot. Some that you might know, the big ones even start panicking. They start taking any and every deal they could get, just because that's, they have needs. They're used to getting a lot of money. And then the other second issue that propels this whole thing even more, and it's always been a thing, brands making this whole thing even worse by setting up these crazy rules and rewriting content to the point that it's just off-brand for the creator. And when that happens, we know how it's like, especially with this shield now being higher and stronger and people just being more aware of this than ever. Their audience starts to lose interest, and then engagement drops further and further, and we're basically getting to the same point, which is why people actually stopped watching TV in the first place, let's say 10 years ago, because of these awful, obvious, in-your-face ads, right? And especially lots of them. And even worse now with social media, at least on TV, ads were or still are usually about some legit products. Now, you can't be sure about that on social media. If you think about that. Now, again, there's some drama behind the scenes, even with some big creators. I know I've talked to some agency of some huge German influencer, like #1 influencer in his or her space. Her, you didn't hear from me, but also struggling with recent launches, recent campaigns and stuff like this. Somebody told me with him or her, with some big influencer, they didn't really get an ROI with their latest campaign. Her. Now let's zoom just a little bit out again for you to understand this whole thing. I call myself pretty lucky to have seen the whole internet emerge basically from zero, right? Remember when I got internet, it was basically the week before Easter in 1996. So I have kind of seen it all. I've seen people right at the beginning on the internet having an honest and open discussion about anything and everything, right? There was no filter. You could just speak like a normal person without algorithms, without bubbles, basically. It was just a normal thing. That's why we love the internet. People calling out, let's say, a product they did not agree with. Not even that long ago, 2015, 2016, a totally normal thing just to voice your honest opinion without having to be afraid of some potential backlash. Remember when the new iPhone came out? Remember Siri came out in the 4S or something like that? A lot of people were like, cool, nice, but I don't really need it, so I'm gonna wait for the next iPhone or something like that. And tech reviewers, which was not really their job yet, if you think about it, but they were just saying that. And that is one thing that has really started to piss me off recently with creators, is that everybody just seems to hype everything up to the max. Whatever that is, everything is just a game changer, right? You got this year, the iPhone, I mean, I buy the new iPhone every year because I'm stupid myself. But basically they're like, wow, you need the iPhone this year because the sensor is 0.2% bigger. And you know, you're gonna miss out on the best pictures ever. And they just make you feel like left behind if you don't get this. But even though, honestly, I haven't noticed the difference between the 12 and the whatever that is. I don't even know the number anymore. And I just really hate this. And whenever I see somebody talk like that, I just discredit. You know, I'm not going to listen anymore. It's not going to change the world. And this is where we kind of get to the second root of all evil here, because obviously most of these creators saying that are getting paid to say things like that. And you know, it's why I basically said last time that as much as I like iJustine, for example, I like her content. She's a legit creator. You know, I'm not taking anything away from her, but I'm not gonna base my purchase decision on any of her reviews, right? It's fun to watch and it's very informational, but this is exactly what I see it as, an infomercial basically, and nothing more. Now, I'm constantly doing some research for, you know, my creator mentorship clients, as well as, you know, just because it's my job basically, but a lot of people tell me exactly the same thing. People are just sick of that. And this is, by the way, exactly why I believe that smaller creators in some sense even have it easier in some ways, building trust, especially in connection, and also making money than these big, huge creators. And the whole trust barrier, this whole shield seems to be a little lowered if you're a sort of more organic, smaller creator where people don't see, well, it might not be their main job or something like this. This is where it gets worse though, because brands are also not stupid and they've become aware of it. So a few months ago, I actually saw this thread on Threads, usually never happens, from a creator called Erin Donahue. And she basically revealed some spicy emails she got from one of these brands that get hyped up a lot on social media, talking about Insta360. And yes, I also went into the hype train. I have a bunch of products from them, but in this email we can see that they basically first of all ask her to feature their new camera on her channel without mentioning that they're the sponsor, because it would be, and I quote, more trustworthy and organic, which is exactly the major issue that we have right here. But even worse, it seems like they just, because Erin, she's, you know, also a smaller creator, obviously, it seems like they just go in there with the ill intent, you know, I don't want to say it's an ill intent, but at least with the intent of baiting gullible, smaller, sort of hopeful creators that have like a dream of getting a partnership, a long-term partnership, and eventually being able to live off of this whole thing. In the same email, they say, upon evaluating the performance of our initial collaboration, we will then consider a payment structure for potential future partnerships. So initially, it's free. You have to do the brand deal for free. Obviously, you're not gonna say if it sucks, because they tell you, well, if it works well, we're gonna have a payment and potential future partnership. Now, there you have it. I don't want to say it's manipulation, but maybe it is. And honestly, this is a major reason why the creator world is so shit right now, to be honest. Why we see brand deals crumble, why we see this trust recession happening. And I'm sure Insta360 is not the only brand who does this, obviously. But if we think about it, these brands sort of go in from the root, basically priming people to never ever have a real, honest, unclouded review or opinion about their products ever again. And I hope you kind of understand right now that we have a real problem in the social media world right now with this whole thing. And I don't think anybody's ever talked about this, because honestly, I think people are just afraid of being canceled in some shape or form. Because most of the creators, the traditional influencers or brand deal creators, are very much dependent on getting a brand deal. Because let's say, for example, I could tell you a quick story. I used to take brand deals back in the days, in my Instagram influencer days, and I called out some brands saying, well, I'm not going to do this. One was a very well-known watch brand that was making its rounds on Instagram, and I called them out, and I actually had a fight, sort of even a public fight. Seems like I got blacklisted, even back then in 2017 or 2018. Then on my YouTube channel right here, I also stopped taking brand deals because I'm not a parrot. I want to say it how I say it. I know my audience, I know you, and I don't want to be a marionette, something like that. Now, I'm not saying brand deals generally are bad, not at all. Please don't get me wrong. But you can kind of see the notion that we have here. Especially if you think about it, right now that rates are dropping, reach is dropping, and things are just being shaken up in the whole creator world. Imposter syndrome is definitely a real thing. Even me, right now, I'm having a full-fledged 7-figure business in the back of this whole channel, basically. And I always think every once in a while, what if I fuck this up? What am I gonna do? It's always in the back of my mind. Thankfully, I'm not I'm not dependent on any brand partnerships, but I'm just saying, what about these other huger influencers as well as smaller ones? One crazy example, by the way, one of my favorite creators, MKBHD, right? A few months ago, he reviewed an electric car, and he totally trashed it because apparently it was really shit, right? And he didn't trash it because he wanted to, kind of get a clickbait title or rage bait content out of it. No, it was he actually reviewed it like you should review a product. He said what he didn't like, and suddenly everybody started to sort of trash him. Even saw articles of these people asking if it's ethical for a creator of his size to criticize products. All right, so what are we gonna do about this? Because what if you're an influencer or a creator being afraid of this whole crash happening right now? What if you already noticed your rates crumbling, or things becoming kind of crappy? Or what if you want to become a creator and that's your dream? Because with all of that, what I just said right now, obviously being a creator is still the one profession that I would recommend to go into if you know what to do. So what are you supposed to do during this whole shift? Because obviously there is a way. The really important question that you need to ask yourself is, if you want to be a creator, or if you are a creator right now, and if you want to stay here for the long term, is essentially that. Ask yourself, what is your long game, right? What is your actual goal with this, with you being a creator? Do you want to just get views and be cool and just get brand deals and kind of be one of those brand deal creators? Or do you just want to be free, build freedom, financial freedom, supporting your family, stuff like this? Or do you just want to create content because you love to create content and don't care about the monetary aspect, sort of treating it as a hobby, which is totally fine too. This is, I think a lot of people forget that. Now, whatever it is for you, your goal is, you just need to focus on just this and nothing else, and just not care about view numbers as much as you think. And one thing I've started to notice a lot, by the way, is, for example, my prime here on YouTube, it's kind of over, at least if we compare it back to 2022. I just had way more views back then. right? I put in a ridiculous amount of effort into my videos, and it was actually the most fun I've ever had. But I sort of got to a point where I personally just couldn't keep up with it anymore, with the whole, scripting, like creating these crazy ass videos. And I actually made the conscious decision to scale back on that area and focus more on the value and reaching just a very dedicated subset of people that I used to reach. Because just a side note, when I started my creator mentorship, my consulting agency, basically, my goals sort of shifted from wanting to be this YouTuber and this creator first to somebody whose main goal is helping as many dedicated people become the best creators ever. I was just thinking about this the other day. One thing I have started to enjoy so much more than seeing these 30K, 50K views on my videos are my weekly mastermind calls in my creator mentorship, where I get together with amazing creators, where we have real honest discussions, sometimes leading into the darkest corners of social media, or if whatever that is, and also helping them through dark times, also seeing them grow, obviously, and see their lives change. So yeah, in a way, I personally feel 100 times more fulfilled despite having a reach cut of 50% or something like that compared to previous years. A fun fact, by the way, has nothing to do with revenue, right? So please detach yourself from these vanity stats, especially if you want to make revenue with your own products. So it's going to be really interesting. We're going to see a lot of traditional influencers just vanish off the face of the earth, to be honest. But this also means there's going to be a lot of real estate for real creators, for people who want to make an impact, right? For somebody who's not just in it for the views, and somebody who's like a genuine creator in whatever shape or form that might be. Now, if you want to kind of know how to do that, obviously there's not just one way, there's multiple different ways because everybody's different. You can actually join my free Insider Club newsletter, where every week I'll break down either content strategies, strategy of different creators. I share insights of all of my split tests and everything that I do every week to not fall into the trap that I basically talked about in this video. Totally free, and I'll see you guys here next week again. Thanks a lot for listening.